morning, everyone. I'm here today with Justin Sheaffer, financial planner with Consolidated Planning. Justin, how's it going?
It's good, man. Good to see you again.
So, Justin, really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today. So, to start off with, Justin, give people a sense of how did you get into this industry? Where's your background? Where are you coming from?
Yeah, it's a rather unique background. So my tagline is typically, former Daredevil gone risk management. So I was actually at the Olympic Training Center for gymnastics, and then had an 11-year professional career in parkour. So the guys that jump between buildings for a living. Did that professionally for a very long time. And then ultimately got to a point where I started noticing a bunch of athletes just getting really kind of screwed over and just not understanding the financial literacy of what they were signing, and maybe having too many owners involved in their business. And so when the pandemic things happened, watching really phenomenal, talented people just kind of lose everything they've worked really hard for. And so leading up to that, I noticed early on, I was like, okay, as I'm getting older and in the competition scene, it's getting younger and younger, I was like, I need to somehow contribute to the sport in a more meaningful way. And I felt that the financial literacy was ultimately what was needed in order to take talented athletes and properly turn them into business-minded folks, but also like, how do you scale when these things start to take off? So that was the main catalyst, was just a pure passion. And then as I navigated and started entering in the career, I noticed that the way that I would approach, jumping between buildings, very, very calculated, very much risk versus reward. I found it translated really well over into the financial journey. And so went from really a movement coach and a master of movement, all things like biomechanical, to really just shifting that focus over to like, how does money work? And then really finding out it's the same thing. There's some visceral reaction that people have when it gets brought up. And so just navigating, okay, well, is that worth pushing? Is that worth receiving coaching on, and how to break through that plateau?
Understood. So you started out as a professional in parkour, and as time went on, you noticed that other people in the industry could really use some help on the life planning, risk 100%. Management side of things, and also just that very action of parkour, that very risk reward type mentality helps you when it comes to financial planning as well.
100%.
So, cool, super cool. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course.
So next, what makes you different from every other financial planner out here now that we're in this position?
Yeah, I mean, outside of that kind of unique upbringing, I think really where it is a lot of advisors you run into, we were all just taught different ways. And I think that adaptability that I just naturally, and the inquisitiveness that I've naturally developed just through the athletic prowess careers, if most people are like, hey, how's it going? How's the weather? I'm like, how's your family doing? And then keep kind of pressing that. Not because I'm invasive, but I'm like, life is so short. Like, let's get to the meat and potatoes of what really matters here. Because to say, hey, let's take 20% of your income and put it away and blah, 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 is one thing. But it never addresses, why is that necessary? What are we building towards? What are we, what is the purpose? What ultimately is going to make that, eating that frog now, worth it in the future from an emotional standpoint, as well as just the financial component to that compounding effect. So from entering through a planning door and really just being adamant about coaching is like, I don't particularly have a minimum, right, in terms of like who I will help and how. Really what I'm looking for in that first meeting, two things. One, if we don't talk about numbers in that first meeting at all, I see it as mission success. Because what I'm much more interested in is finding out that emotional tick, what makes you tick, what makes you you. And as you're trying to kind of feel me out, it's like, is Justin the right person for me? I'm doing the same. Like, is this person's goals meaningful enough to them that I'm invested in helping them accomplish that? And so typically if someone, and I'm always welcome to push back and feedback, but it's from a coaching standpoint, it's like, I feel like from an athletic standpoint or from a financial standpoint, if you're the type of person that wants to continue to stay in your comfort zone because it's easy, I'm probably not the right fit. But if you're like, Justin, how do you get me right on the edge of that comfort zone before that tire spins out, and help talk me off that ledge, so to speak, when things are getting crazy? And it's like, yeah, that's the type of, from a personal planning, like individuals or families, like that's who I'm looking for. Because I get lit up, they get lit up, and it seems to be pretty sympathetic.
So understanding the root motivation of why they're coming to build their financial future this way.
Yeah.
And then the right kind of client for you is one who's not like ready to go day to day same they've always been doing, but is ready to make a change to get to that point where they want to be.
100%, because I think especially for people like in my age, 30s, like it's rare that you meet someone who's super forward thinking about retirement, but they're thinking more in the next 5 years of here's what I want to acquire this property, I want to delve into commercial real estate. And it's like, look, the only reason why the goals haven't happened yet that you just illustrated is because two things stop them. One is is there any catastrophic event that's ultimately going to stop your income, whether that's as grim as death, disability, or layoffs. They seem to be happening depending on what sectors you're in. So how can we mitigate as much of that from a risk standpoint? But then also, what have you been contributing to it, right? Because if we're not taking all of those things into consideration, like the name Consolidated Planning alludes to, is like my job is to create a full-fledged, thorough financial plan for you. If we're going off hopes, then we would name the company Consolidated Wishing, right? So it's very thorough, very thought out of why we chose that name and what we're trying to get people to realize too is if we can save you from catastrophe, and if we can continue to make contributions to your goals before aggressively giving money back to Amex and Navient for student loans, like those things are important. They'll get their money one way or another. Let's make sure that we're squirreling enough away for you so that the rest of your dollars, you have guilt-free whatever. You can spend it how you want. You can buy the things you want because we know we're doing the appropriate thing to get you where you want to be.
Understood. Makes sense. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm networking all over Asheville, but I think from social media standpoint, I'm really on LinkedIn. Just Justin Sheaffer, Sheaffer. Shea butter is kind of how I reference that. But yeah, and then the office here is right next to Pax Tavern, so feel free to
so come on and walk in, right?
Swing on by. Yeah, someone's usually always here, at least from 8 till about 5. So.
Cool. And we'll have that contact info below this video here so people can find it really easily.
Awesome.
Well, Justin, great meeting with you today.
You too, Ben.
Really appreciate taking the time,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to crossing paths again soon.
Absolutely.